Hey guys, it's Phil coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm back. I'm excited. I'm pumped up. Hopefully everyone's doing well, practicing self-care, building themselves up, doing the next right thing, not letting one thought, one situation, one person take them outside of what they know to be true. And I know exactly 63 people did just that since my last video, because that's how many people walked in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest, not let any self-doubt, not let anything get inside of their way of getting to the next level of doing what they want to do. Now they're living their best life, doing everything that they know that they're capable of, not letting anything stop them. They walked in the exam, grabbed it by the throat, kicked it directly in the chest, and got the job done, because that's exactly what the goal is to do everything that they need. 63 people have passed their exams since the last video uploaded, and it's amazing how many people are rapping and rocking with the Fill in the Gaps community, and from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you that is doing that. But let's see the people that have passed, and then we'll get into the rest of the video, and they are as follows: Marissa S., Ben G., Lashana W., TJ O., Caitlin H., Dana C., Wendy M., Crystal G., Ariel C., Julie L., Jen R., Katrina M., Carla W., Kate V., Demetrius A., Cinnamon G., Taran L., Denijah D., Kelly TH, Kelly K., Anna B., Tall L., Natasha S., Josie H., Hannah P., Jessica P., Colette G., Stephanie N., Rosa B., Harley V., Ashley R., Patricia M., Mike R., Emily P., Ashley R., Cara V., Alexis L., Jen S., Sieta H., Denise A., Aaron C., Robin R., Monique W., Joanne M., Jenny C., Ann G., Amy R., Liz J., Kaylee P., Regina B., Annette T., Jesse G., Brooke S., Madalena N., Joey M., Brittany M., Danielle R., Jill S., Karina V., Jean A., Scott B., Janae, and Desiree A. Woo, I'm so excited, man, because so many people on this list were saying, Phil, I'm not sure if I can get the job done. I'm not sure if I'm meant to do this. I'm not sure if any of these things that I'm doing are actually working, and all I could tell them is keep going, keep fighting, keep building yourself up, pushing past any of the things, but getting into a system that you know works specifically for you, because you're the only one that's going to be in the exam getting the job done. So your system has to make sense to you. Do not let one thought, one situation, one person get inside of your mind. Do not add anything. Do not take away from the questions, and do exactly what you know you need to do, because when you're practicing, it needs to build up to walk into the exam, and that leaves zero doubts in your mind that what you're supposed to be doing at that moment is kicking the exam directly in the chest to get the job done. And if you're like, Bill, I want to rep and rock with you as well, how can I do that? I love the energy, I love the style. How can I particularly connect with you? The easiest way to do that is the Sunday study groups. Why do I say that? Because my individual tutoring schedule is pretty hairy, and it's difficult to get a session right now with everything that I particularly have going on. But the next Sunday study groups are as follows: 725 practice questions. So going through the different tips that I recommend people to utilize during the exam, as well as going over the different types of questions, as well as going over 15 practice questions, breaking them down, cut them in half, showing you how to differentiate two different answers and what particularly it looks like to walk in the exam to kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. But I always say this whenever it comes to the practice questions that I do not come into the session expecting to get every single one right. Do not expect to be perfect, but be open and willing to learn, because the questions that I construct often are more difficult than the ones that are on the actual exam. And I do that for the sole purpose of I'd rather have you go through a difficult situation while repping and rocking with me than walk into the exam and have it punch you in the face, take you out, and have you confused with what particularly is going on. So if you come into the sessions that I do and do not get any of the questions correct, that's 100% okay, because the goal is to improve and to push yourself further and to get the job done. As well as the next one after that is 8.1 Freudian theory, and then 8.8 human developmental theories. And if you have any questions or want information regarding those, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And those are on Sundays starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But if you're not able to attend the sessions live, it's 100% possible to get the recording and the materials after the session. So live attendance is not 100% required. I often get the question, Phil, I know I can't attend the session. Am I still going to be able to benefit, or am I going to miss out? What does it particularly look like? You can get the recording, or if there's a session that I did in the past that you want access to, it's 100% possible to purchase the recording and the materials for those sessions as well. So if you want any information about the live Sunday study groups and or the previous Sunday study groups, then send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, as well as, like I said, my individual tutoring schedule is still available. So I do still offer individual tutoring, and my schedule is way booked right now. So if your exam's coming up and it's before 4 to 5 to 6 weeks out, then it's going to be difficult for you to be able to get a session with me, but it is possible that people may reschedule or cancel. So if you want to be put on the waiting list, you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or if you have an exam that is a little bit further out, it's possible to get a session as well. So if you want information about that, then send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description. You'll see the different links that are there, the paid Sunday study groups, as well as individual tutoring, as well as I'm bringing it back, which is a one-day course, and I told you I had a goal of doing one per month for the rest of the year. So we did one in July. It was amazing. A ton of people showed out, and a ton of people were like, holy crap, I did not expect it to be this helpful, or yikes, these questions that you create are making me doubt myself, or like are blowing my mind. But ultimately, the one-day course is the number one successful thing that has come about, because a lot of times people will go to courses that other people have. They don't really retain or gain the information, or it's not really applicable for you to be able to walk in the exam and kick it directly in the chest. So the next one-day course is going to be on August 21st, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time until they kick us out. And they can't really kick us out because I'm the host, but I don't really put a time parameter on that session because the one-day courses are as long as they need to be. And what do I mean by that? So we'll go through the content, we'll go through the practice questions, there'll be breaks throughout the different session, but also there's a question and answer segment where you can directly interact with me about any questions or concerns. Your exam's coming up, you want to pick my brain, you want to do anything. So the content typically ends at 8:30 or 9:30 or 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then the question and answer goes until as long as it needs to be. So sessions have ended at 11, sessions have ended at midnight, but I often ended it at like midnight or 12:30. Why? Based on the fact that there's a Sunday study group the night after, so I have to make sure that I have a little bit of energy in being able to do that. So if you've never heard about the one-day course that I do, what is covered in it is the tips I find most helpful for people to walk in the exam and kick it directly in the chest and pass. Most common reasons why people fail their exam, and why is that important? Because it's better for you to learn from what people have done in the past than for you to walk into the exam, get knocked out, and learn the lesson in the real time, breaking down multiple topics. So the difference between subpoena versus court order, referral versus supervision, community interventions. We'll go over different DSM-5 diagnosis. We'll go over the medications. We'll go over the 5-step process that I recommend people to break down every single question. And then we'll top it off with 25 practice questions while applying the acronym to them. And then we'll go over each level of the acronym as well to help you mobilize together. But as I said, for the 725 practice question session, the questions that I create during my sessions tend to be difficult. So do not walk in there and try to be perfect, but be open and willing to have that understanding of why am I getting things wrong, rather than be like, I'm getting things correct or I'm getting things incorrect, because the goal is to grow into the best possible version of yourself. But if you're going into these sessions and saying, I need this to affirm what I already know, you're the only thing that can affirm what you know and the confidence level that you need. And the only thing that dictates whether you pass or fail is the actual exam. So do not let it get you caught up into the crossfire. But if you're like, Bill, my exam's before August 21st, what do I particularly do? It's 100% possible to purchase the previously recorded session that I did in July. So if you want any information about the live session and or the previous session, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description if you're trying to sign up for the live 821 session. But again, as I said before, live attendance is not 100% required because the session will be recorded. You'll be able to review it at your own leisure, as well as the materials. And for those that do not know, Audible's continued to partner with me on my YouTube videos and my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. And the 30-day free trial is how you can help me out and to boost up all of these different things, because it's amazing how many people have already signed up for the Audible as well as the 30-day free trial. So if you've never heard about Audible, Audible is an easy way to get information and gain knowledge on the go. So if you're busy just like me and you still want to become the best possible version of yourself and grow and get to the next level, Audible is an easy way to do so. So again, if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. That is audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps, PHILINTHEGAPS. audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. It means a lot to me. And if you're like, Phil, I want to rep and rock with you, but I'm not really sure what book I should get, there are a couple that I would recommend. They are as follows: The Alchemist, Just Mercy, The Power of Habit, Outliers, and The Archer. Each of them have different lessons and things that you can utilize in your personal and professional life to become the best possible version of yourself, because that is the goal, not just to take an exam, but walk in and give yourself experience in order to have experience to get into the next level, to push yourself to be a better version of yourself. And if you have any questions or want any information from me, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And you're not getting rid of me just yet, because there's been a couple of things that have been on my mind. I talked to someone just the other day, and they were like, Phil, I wasn't sure what to expect when I was meeting with you. I wasn't sure if it was going to be helpful. I've been really panicking about my exam, and I'm just not really sure. Somebody allowed for them to get a session in their place, and they, at the end of the session, it really touched me, man. I was just sitting there like, man, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling? She's like, Phil, I ain't trying to be funny, but I've been afraid of this exam for a little bit, and with meeting with you, I was able to gain more confidence in myself, show myself this isn't something that I should be afraid of, and I'm excited. I'm excited for this exam, and I've been almost running or pushing it off because people are telling me that it's difficult. People are planting seeds in my mind and telling me that I can't get it, and those are the things that really just irk me inside when somebody's like, somebody else said, or this person told me I couldn't, or I was telling myself I couldn't, and something that slipped out of her mouth, and then seeped into my mind. She's like, Bill, I think I have imposter syndrome. And I was like, I've heard of that before, and I experience it some days as well. And the thing about imposter syndrome is if somebody feels like they are an imposter, they have a template in their mind of what they should look like or what they particularly need to do in order to get environments and situations. But at the end of the day, if we pull the word imposter apart, we can see the word impose. And the word impose means to force something unwelcome or unfamiliar to be accepted or put in place. So you almost have to force yourself into situations or force thoughts of positivity into your mind that you otherwise do not believe. So you have to impose your will and put all the energy you have into getting into situations you don't personally think you need to be in, but you deserve to be in because you've sacrificed too much, you have too much to lose, and you do not need to let one thought, one situation, one person, or anything make you doubt yourself, including yourself. And if you're in an environment where somebody is telling you you don't deserve to be there, that is their template of what that person needs to be doing at that given moment, but you know what you're capable of. So you need to stop letting this symptom get inside of your mind. So a lot of things that you're telling yourself, you have a template of where you should be, but where the growth and moments that you need to be in are in this moment. The moment that you are in is the only moment that you can get. There may be things in your past. There may be situations that you've not done everything that you thought you would be doing, but today's the only day, so you have to start imposing your will on it and getting your mindset ready. And even if you don't believe it, again, the word impose means force. You have to put some force or get into uncomfortable situations because it is unwelcomed or unfamiliar, but unfamiliar things over time become familiar. You have to become so familiar with those environments you don't feel that you deserve in, that when you get inside of them, it's like, I've given everything that I got to get into this position. And like I said, I think about it all the time of how did this even happen? And somebody even asked me the other day, Phil, how are you even doing this? Like, how did you even get into this situation of where you're helping people pass the exam? I was like, I don't know. I really have no clue. All this really was viewing myself in the situation of how difficult it was to stay focused and how difficult it was to have no one tell you that you can make it. And then I started doing it over and over and over and over and over and over. And now it's familiar for me. But every single time that runs through my head is the losses that I've went through in order to get here. So if you're not imposing your will on it, you are going to have that imposter syndrome. But if you put yourself into unfamiliar or unwelcome circumstances over and over and over and over and over and over, you are then going to make them familiar, and that is not going to make you an imposter. It is going to make you something that happens. If you look at the word imposter, the first couple of letters is I am. It's I am able and willing to get into these situations, and they will put me on a poster someday because I deserve to be here. I will keep posting up and doing everything that I need to do in order to get into those situations that I deserve. You've sacrificed too much. You put in too much work. You should not let one thought, one situation, one person, including the exam, which may be an unfamiliar or an unsuccessful thing for you in the past, but that does not mean that it is today, and that does not mean that it is over, because one situation does not make your situation over. The only time that you fail is when you give up. And you are not giving up because you're watching this video and you're putting in the work and you're doing everything that you know you need to be doing in order to get to that next level. You have to keep going. You need it. You need it. You need it. You need to keep going because I'm counting on you. Everyone else is counting on you. And if no one else is telling you that you can do it, I will tell you. Every single second of the day, I believe that you can get to the next level because you've sitting here, you're doing everything that you need to do, and you may be kicking your own butt because you're not studying as much as the next person, or I listen to this person and I don't know what I need to do. But you need to sit yourself down and say, I'm doing everything that I can today in order to get the job done, because there's nothing else that I can do today, because today is over, and I will push myself to the next day, and I will impose the skills and abilities that I may not possess today, but as long as I'm focusing on it, I will put my energy there, because where your focus goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, your focus goes. And if it's not in positive situations or positive environments, you need to foster that. You need to impose it. You need to get into unfamiliar situations, even though there may not be popular opinions, or they may not be something that you're familiar with, and maybe the best thing for you is to cut off the negativity and those familiar situations and get into that unfamiliar, unwelcome situation and to be accepted and put in place. You need to start putting things in place that are going to put you in places that you can't even see at this moment. We are so close to ourselves that we will cut ourselves short before we get to the next level. You have to keep going, and if it's uncomfortable, I don't want you to be in pain, but you have to get something from that pain, because pain over time becomes satisfaction. You need to turn that pain that you've been into and those situations you didn't think you needed to be in into better situations, because you will look back and be like, man, I really did all of those things in order to get me to this moment. Because if you look back at the things that you went through to be able to be in this situation, you would never question it. You would never question what you did in that situation to get going. You have to be in the situation more than you want to be outside of it. And another thing that was on my mind is that this person's like, how do I keep myself accountable The way that you keep yourself accountable of being whether you're opposing is to look at that word. If we look at the word accountable as the word count, we need to do a count of our blessings to show that we are able and willing to be in the situation. You have to be accountable to yourself and yourself only, because if you are accountable to somebody else, you are doing it for them. And if you're not focusing on what your capabilities and abilities are, and they stop affirming you, you will not stay firm in the situation or position that you know you need to be in. And if you need to be affirmed, you can affirm yourself. And if you have people that are repping and rocking with you, and they're telling you that you can do it, take that as fuel, but you ultimately have to run the race. You have to get the job done. You have to do the things that you know you need to be doing. So the way to keep yourself accountable is to start counting the actions and blessings and things that you're doing in your life to show yourself that you're able to get the job done. So if you look at it, accountability shows I'm able to get this done. It doesn't mean I will get it done. It means I'm able to. So that other half of the equation is you executing in the situation to get yourself into those situations that you know you need to be in. Do not let this exam take you outside of what you know to be true. You have to take it as just another experience or another opportunity to propel you to the next level. A lot of times people are like, Bill, I think this exam is built to kill me. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we can't control what they make us do. But the thing that we can control is the energy, the perspective, and the positivity that we have around the situation in order to get ourselves to the next level. So you have to make sure that everything that you're doing on a daily basis is propelling you further. It may be just you resting. You being rested is better than you grinding yourself to the ground to get to the next level. And if you're like, Phil, I thought you're all about grinding. I thought you're about getting the jobs done. I am about that, but I'm better off being rested than stressed and dragging myself down and not being the best possible version of myself. Because I would rather have you be the best possible version of yourself in that exam and every opportunity that you're in and do less, but perform better than if you're over encumbered, you're exhausted, and you get inside of the exam or the opportunity that you wanted to get into and you're sleeping. You need to make sure that what you're particularly doing is actually leading you there. The opportunity is not what the goal is. You executing on the opportunity is the goal. So that was something that was heavy on my mind, is you have to start imposing yourself in these situations that may be unfamiliar or unwelcomed, but you have to force it to be accepted and put in place. Whether they think you deserve to be in that place or not is not up to them, because again, do not let one thought, one situation, one person take you outside of what you know to be true. And if you need any information from me or want any assistance from me or have any questions for me, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I appreciate all the support that you guys show me. For those that are repping and rocking with me, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys. I try my best to lay everything that I got on the line for you guys. And I apologize that there's not anything going on. Why? Because my roommate moved out and we don't have any decor or anything up just yet. But don't worry, I'm going to set it up so that way it's not just a wall anymore. So sorry, the little statue thing and the picture in the back's not there. But try my best to show the authentic Bill. So again, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Take care. Be safe. If you need anything, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I'll see you guys in the next video, hopefully to see you in individual tutoring, study groups, one-day course, anything. Or do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up if you're liking it, as well as if you haven't already, subscribe down below, click the bell notification, and drop me a comment that said, Bill, I made it to this point, or Phil, that was helpful, because all of the comments in different situations that you put into the comments inspires me and inspires everyone else. But I'm getting the heck out of here, guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Take care, be safe. I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out, guys. Tips and tricks to not get stuck on one question for multiple minutes.
So I took my exam this past Wednesday and failed by 6 points, which was frustrating, but I guess it wasn't by one like some people. I don't know how I would come back from that. But I found myself just really getting stuck on multiple questions for multiple minutes. I think I would like start reading it like Susan works at a hospital, da 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 da, and I'd be like, okay, Susan works at a hospital, and I would just like, I don't know, just kind of get stuck on a couple of words and just really can't get past it. I don't know. I definitely have a lot of anxiety when it comes to test taking. So obviously that plays a factor in it, but I just need to, I guess, practice on just reading the question, the answers, rereading the question, and then select the best one and go on. I don't know. Any advice?
So what is your process of breaking down a question right now?
So you're asking somebody that earlier and she wasn't sure, and I'm like, I'm not really sure either. um, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so I think that's the first step. I think the first step is to what is going to be my process? Not that I'm going to carbon copy every question into it, but what are my bread and butter? Like, what is when my back is against the wall and I'm not sure, what can I whip out of my pocket as my gift or superpower to enable me to be able to, one, calm myself, and two, stay focused on the question and answer?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Because I did find myself, getting distracted by people walking in or just different things that were going on around me. I knew it was very distracting, but yeah, definitely just need to focus.
And when you find yourself getting caught up on the details, so for the people that I work with, and if I had like a quote unquote Phil starter pack, I tell people to read the question 3 to 4 times. But each time that you read the question, it has a purpose to it. So for the quote unquote Phil starter pack, the first time you read the question is simply to understand what the situation is saying. The second time that you read the question is to break down the key details and pick them out. And the third and fourth time are where you're looking at the answer that you think it is, or the second answer that you think it is, and comparing it back to the question to see which one connects. So don't let Susie throw you off. Simply say, okay, this person is doing this. This is what they presented with. This is where they're coming from. Okay, what are the answers saying? This is what this says. Okay, let me rule that one out. All right, let me rule this one out. All right, I'm in between these two. Okay, so would this answer compare back to the question? Okay, maybe. Okay, let me read the other one. Okay, this second one doesn't really mesh with it well. Okay, I'm going to go with this C, and then let's move on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because there were some I definitely spent way too much time on it, and I think it's like a little, well, like a minute and 30 seconds on each question if you were to use the full 4 hours. So some I was definitely on like multiple minutes. So
And if you find yourself getting too carried away, you're like, oh my God, I may run out of time. Read the question one more time, bag and tag an answer, and move on, based on the fact that do not let one question throw you off and take you away from the other 169 questions on the exam.
yeah, I think that was also my issue. I was like, maybe like the first 7 questions, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know any of these. And I'm like so focused on these first like 7 to 10 questions, and, just got so hung up and in my anxiety in my head that I just wasted time.
And if you could go back, or if the next time you walk into the exam, what could you do to not let those 7 to 10 questions get you on level?
I think now that I have like the experience of going in, like what it looks like, what the exam looks like, just like the layout, I think I have anxiety related to like the unknowing. So now that I know kind of like what the computer is, what the system is, like mark buttons, like how everything works, I think that's going to definitely help. So yeah,
So with clarification comes comfortability for you.
yeah, I'd say so.
So now that you're comfortable with the first attempt and walking into this next attempt, what could you do to forgive yourself for not knowing information on the exam?
Just trust myself. I think I also struggle with like trusting myself, or some other people have mentioned, there's 2 really good answers, like which one you're going to pick, and just go with your gut and move on.
What are practical steps that you can do to start trusting yourself and having more confidence in yourself?
I think taking more practice tests. I've like utilized Pocket Prep, which For me, I mean, a lot of people said it's helpful, but for me, it really wasn't. So I just need to find something out there that is more realistic for me and practical for me, and just practice is how I usually succeed.
Okay. And that's where, do you know how many questions you can get wrong in the exam and still pass?
Did you say like 40 to 50?
45 to 54
Okay.
questions, depending on the version you get. Plus, there are 20 that do not count. So if we want to be like cynical and say, well, every single practice question is not going to be one that you get correct, you could technically get 60 to 70 wrong.
Yeah, that's also a good point for just not getting hung up on one single question and just answering it to the best of my ability and moving on.
Bingo. And I think a lot of times what happens is when you look at study materials or different preparation programs, you may be killing the game. You may be feeling good. You may be getting exposed. And then you're like, yeah, I'm going to walk in and kill it. And then you see a question and it's like, whoa, I thought we weren't taking an algebra test today.
Yeah, right.
Or, yo, I didn't bring my calculator. But it's like, get past that, because the questions you utilized may not have had the difficulty level of what you're going to see, but the techniques and strategies you utilize to get the answer can be applied to that question in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And then another thing, I've had somebody tell me, don't leave an answer unmarked. And so I think that kind of killed a lot of time, because I was stressing about I didn't want to leave anything unanswered. And so I was like, okay, I got to answer something. And so here I am on one question for, I don't know, 3 minutes. And then it's just eating my time up. So
yeah, just keep practicing, get repetitions in, and then find what's going to work for you. So that way, when you walk into the exam, there's not a doubt in your mind that you're doing what you plan to do, and you're not just mix and matching as they come along.
all right. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. And if you need anything, just send me an email.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. How to answer community related questions. I feel like this is the most common question that I get is, Phil, there's a lot of community things, or there was a lot of policy questions on this exam, or this person told me this, or that person told me that. And the main question I always ask people when it comes related to community, and this is painting a broad stroke over a very concept, if you will, but how would you interact with an individual client? And they say, well, what do you mean? Of course I know individual clients. I've been doing micro practice for the longest time. And I'm like, okay, so what's the purpose of micro practice or individual therapy, if you will? And they're like, well, I need to meet the client where they're at, identify what they want to do, help them accomplish the goals they have, and then see how it goes throughout the process. And then I go, okay, what if I told you that an individual client and the processes that you would do to help them are very, very similar to the community, based on the fact that it's still social work, and the purpose of social work is to help empower and mobilize a person to become the best possible version of themselves and help them along in the process. So my biggest recommendation when it comes to how to answer the community related questions is, one, have an understanding of the community related concepts, of course, but understand that the same thing that you would do with an individual client is the same thing that you would do with the community, based on the fact that it's still social work. So for example, the first thing that you need to do when it comes to related to community organizing or developing a program or anything like that is develop and rapport with the people that you want to make an impact on in some way, shape, or form. So impacting or interacting with other people in the sector or that population that you want to approach. So developing rapport, same thing with that individual client. The first thing that you're going to do, develop rapport, understand what they need and how we can help them in some way, shape, or form. Second is doing an assessment of what do they currently possess, what do they need to help improve their quality, and how can we help them do that? Same thing with the community. We're going to do a needs assessment. Same thing with an integrated biopsychosocial assessment on the individual or the micro side. Same is what we're going to do with the community. So we're going to do that needs assessment, figure out what do we currently have, what do we need, and who is going to contribute what, so that way we can throw it all into this treatment plan. So in the individual client world, it is going to be a treatment plan. In the community realm, it's going to be creating goals and objectives, aka plan of treatment. So that way we can develop a task force to carry out the plan and then evaluate and see how it goes. On the individual client side, we are going to develop the plan, provide an intervention with and for that person's situation, and then we're going to evaluate based on the fact their quality of life, or did they accomplish their goals, etc. Were the objectives fulfilling the goal that they had set? So the easiest way to approach a community question is to remember that it's social work and that you can apply your micro experience to the macro or meso level of social work. So that's how I'd answer that question in particular. I took my exam and failed by 2 points. I struggled with human development, diversity and behavior and environment, and intervention and client systems. Any advice on how to study for questions in these categories and techniques that can better break down what is best answer versus what is the correct answer?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hey, Phil.
How's it
So
going?
good. So I took the exam, and at the end, it basically gives you like the number of questions you answer correctly. And I noticed those two categories, like I scored like very low in answering them correctly. So because you can't go back and actually review your exam to know like what questions kind of fall into those categories, like I'm trying to understand like what don't I understand about human development and client systems that I'm scoring low on those categories. Um, and also, I know like a lot of people have said before, I also find it hard because on the exam, there are a lot of answers that seem to be correct and probably the good answer, but it's not the correct answer. So I kind of want to try to avoid picking what sounds good versus what is actually correct in the situation.
Okay. So let's address the first part of that question of how do you improve, or how do you know how to improve on the areas of improvement that your print off showed you at the end of the exam. So let me ask you this. When you were going through the exam, were you able to identify what category they were on, or what category the question was in as you were going through it?
Um, Not really. I
Oh,
mean, some questions, yeah, but other questions I couldn't really um determine like in which category it was falling into.
and I was kind of asking that question as like a straw man comment, meaning like, of course you didn't. Of course you didn't know the types of questions. No one does when they're taking the exam, because that's just overthinking the process. So that's where I kind of think of the exam differently than other people do when they're helping people. I don't really break the exam up into different categories or say, all right, you need to improve in only the human development, diversity, and behavior and environment, because you may cling on to specific things that you think you need to improve on in that category. You walk into the exam and you see none of those. That happens quite a
Mhm.
bit. So my biggest recommendation, rather than, okay, I need to improve in these areas and I need to do all of these massive changes, is when I see this stuff in a question, how can I apply it, and how can I feel more comfortable breaking down, analyzing, and getting to the answers, and not having this war between myself when going through the process of like, this is how I'd answer it. Sometimes this is how I'd answer it other times. So how does this question in particular want me to answer it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that is true. Like, you may go like, I think I got the harder exam this time, but it's not guaranteed. Like next time, I would have like similar questions or an easier version or a harder version. So I kind of have to come up with like a method, like how generally like I answer and apply the techniques to the questions.
And what would you say your current process is?
Usually when I read a question, I kind of look at like certain highlights like the age, the presenting problem, who is the client, and you know my role. And also I do look at keywords because sometimes just working in the medical field, I can base it on my own experience and not actually what is being said. So with certain situations, I would look at what the client is actually asking for, compared to me thinking, oh, okay, well, all right, he has trouble drinking, then he automatically has to go do substance abuse. And that may not be like what the client wants to do, in the sense.
So that is when you need to like check yourself, because if you do things and try to find a shortcut, you're always going to find yourself at a dead end.
Okay.
Does that make sense though? Of like, if I am going to find keywords and jump on those keywords and apply them to the question immediately, is that going to lead me to a better situation than respecting the question, understanding the question, and being able to navigate that effectively?
Yeah, I understand. Because even the practice question you just gave previously, like I was rushing to A at first because I was like, oh, assess, because you always think, oh, safety, and then you automatically, the first thing they always saying is assess, assess, assess. But then I had to look into it when it was saying suicide. I was like, but it didn't mention anything like that. So then I went for D as my answer, which ended up being correct. But if I was thinking like in terms of like the old way I was thinking, where it's like, oh, okay, that's a keyword, assess. That's what they always tell you to do with a client first. Then I would overlook the fact that, you know, the client didn't have any suicidal like features or anything like that that would require me to assess that.
Exactly. And that's where you have to like compare the strategies, I guess, because experience is the only thing that is going to allow for you to experience things. But reminding yourself your last exam was close, so you don't have to put a dynamite stick in the bottom of the house and blow it up. You simply just have to change the kitchen sink to make it look better than you want it to.
Okay.
So my biggest recommendations is not to start categorizing, well, this is the best answer, but this is the answer the exam wants. There's only one exam and there's only one answer that would be correlatable to one, the field and the exam, because even though you have a lot of experience and good things that you contribute to the exam, not everything's in a medical capacity.
Right.
Because as a medical social worker, you're trying to gather as much information as fast as you can so that way you can address and assess that person as fast as you can and get them out.
Right.
But if
Right.
you're an outpatient social worker or a therapist, you have a lot more time and you can navigate and process and do things in a slower pace, and you don't automatically have to jump to these buzzwords.
I got you. That makes sense.
And if you need any other additional assistance, just reach out, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
It is my pleasure. My name is Tal. I took the test August 12th, failed by 10 points, never failed any test before. I can discuss briefly my experience. Do you still want to share your experience?
Yes, that would be great. I will share my experience. Sure.
How's it going? How's it going?
Right now, it's going pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing as good as I can, man.
Okay.
So what did it feel like to fail by 10 after not failing any exam or anything prior to this?
Well, I'll say one thing that was interesting. You know, I'm a professional athlete. I play table tennis, and I've been to like the Olympics and all these different things. And like I train to deal with pressure, like for years. Just like I've trained it, and I felt an immense amount of pressure taking this exam, and it affected me during the exam. Which again, when I've played, I don't know, tournaments with thousands of people in the stands, and I was fine. So I would say the first thing that might be useful for people is to find a way to manage the anxiety while you're taking the exam. In athletics, I've done it by trying to diminish the value of the tournament and just tell myself not so important, focus on some things that are important. So that's the first thing I would say. I did feel a lot of anxiety, and again, I've had a challenging life in some ways. I was homeless for 10 years, and a lot of things that happened. It's pretty much always okay. I never went to high school. I took a GED, and then I ended up, even failing a bunch of college classes. It took me a while to get through that, and I ended up finishing four degrees. Even that was okay, but I have to say, this exam, I felt pretty uncomfortable. So that would be the first thing I would probably suggest, to find a way to manage the anxiety. That would be the first thing I would look at. And the second thing, I had a problem with the content of the exam, because I took the practice exam and I passed by 10 or 11 points. And I was like, no problem. And I read, there was some Dawn, somebody, I read her whole textbook. I did 5,000 questions. So I think I prepared okay. But the challenge I had, I felt there was so many questions that it could have been either answer. So 2 were just completely incorrect. And then there was 2 where it's like, so I was like 50-50 on probably half of the questions. So those are the 2, I would say, main challenges, the anxiety, and then figuring out and I was, I wrote the stuff that she had said, the very late, validate and all that stuff. And then I think it just confused me more because I was like, all right, wait, this is very late. This is validate. And I'm trying to fit the question into the acronym. And maybe I missed sort of like what the question was about. And I was like, all right, wait, so it was, it just wasn't good. It wasn't really too good. But the final thing I'll say, when I took the LMSW, I said to myself, you know what, if I fail it, because I had a friend who failed it 4 times and he quit. He didn't do social work. And I thought he would have been good. So I said, if I fail it 4 or 5 times, I'm going to keep going. So I wasn't too happy when I failed the LCSW, but you know what? I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to try it. Even if I fail it this time, I'll take it again. I mean, I'll take it 10 times if I have to. I'm sure I'll get it at least 1 out of 10.
And something that I think that first off, I don't think I've ever interacted with a professional athlete that's been in the Olympics. So that's kind of cool for me. But something that might be detrimental from that experience and comparing your professional career to this exam is with repetitions in following a particular regimen, your skill and abilities are going to be evident and skyrocket through that experience and exposure. This exam, regardless of how you prepare or how many questions you do or pieces of advice that you get from other people, the only thing that matters is the questions that you see during that day.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that is where I would kind of put that, because that's a really cool thing. But notice that even though you follow, let's say you did everything of Dawn's book, you did 5,000 questions, maybe that information wasn't what was needed for that day, or those 5,000 questions didn't have the difficulty level or the rigor that was needed to walk into the exam and to make you feel comfortable.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's a new event. It's just like a competition. Your past results don't dictate future results. And I think you said that before, that each exam in one of your videos that I looked at was, it's a new event. It's something new. It's like starting over and taking the exam again.
Exactly. It's almost like, if we want to compare it to your professional career, it's like you are facing an opponent that you've never seen play before, but they're is as skilled as you are, but there's no way that you can adequately prepare. You don't know ways to benefit or their drawbacks. It's simply, I know that this person is just as good as I am. I need to give my best on that, but it's outside of my control. And the only thing that I can control is my feelings, my preparation, and the things that I'm going to do during those 170 questions, and nothing else really matters.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Sure. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I'll keep, I also, again, there were 2 things that I read online, that if you take the test on a Monday or a Wednesday, it's easier. I don't know if that's true or not. So I switched. I had it on a Friday. I switched to Wednesday. Maybe not. So yeah, that was one of the things. And I think I'm not sure. I did what I could. I mean, the practice test, I passed it. I felt pretty comfortable. But I just think, I'm not going to say it was a hard test or an easy test. I needed 102 questions. I just think there's some material that people know well because we're studying so much. And then there's other we just don't know as well. Like that, this test, somebody else here could take it and pass it easily. And maybe I can get one of their tests and I would pass it. But I think it's just a matter of getting, like you said, the right fit, I think, when the time comes. It's one of the things.
So I would not let anything that other people are telling you impact what you're supposed to be doing. Because I'm going to disprove this all. The day that you take the exam doesn't dictate the difficulty. Not every single person's rushing for a Wednesday. Not every single person's rushing for a Tuesday. Because back when I was taking it, everyone's like, well, if you take it on a Saturday in the morning, that this is going to happen. And that is people just speaking from their experience and saying, wow, I felt it was really easy. I took it on a Thursday. You should shoot for it too. And I always used to joke back in the day that if I started telling people to drink honey before the exam and they started passing after drinking the honey, I might as well start a honey company because we're about to sell a ton of honey.
Sure.
So that is where there's no shortcut to being able to pass or take this exam. Do not let any shortcut or fast tip or one study material or one piece of information dictate the main thing that's going to indicate whether you pass or fail the exam. And that's the actual 170 questions that are going to be in front of you that day. Don't let it be like, well, the more times you take it, it gets more difficult because they want you to keep taking it and making money off of you. Don't let them say that if it's raining that day that they're going to feel bad and give you an easier exam. It's what you see that day out of the test bank, because what I envision these exams are is, let's say there's 10,000 practice questions that they've culminated together, and then out of a hopper, 170 fall together because each question is weighted differently. So if you get a question wrong, it could be counted for you getting 1.5 questions wrong based on a fact that you had a question that had a 0.5 worth of a point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
So do not let anything that anyone tells you, like a shortcut or a fast track or like, I need to do this. Simply focus on the things that you can control and do your best and learn from the things that you've done. But don't let a practice exam, don't let a particular thought, don't let a particular experience, don't let someone else's experience or someone else's thought dictate what you know in your heart that you're capable of. Because you just told me, I've been through a difficult thing. Take the things that you did to get through those difficult things, apply it to this exam, and know that you can't control what is going to happen in the experience, but you can simply control who you are during that experience.
Sure. That makes sense. I do have one other question. I mean, I also was reading that it's not good to look at different sources of ways to study. Like, you have a system of a way to study. There's a couple of obviously other people. And that's what I was thinking. I mean, I tried one system. It didn't work for me. My friend was looking at all your videos, and he said that you were really good, but I was already in the middle of like looking at somebody else. So I was like, I didn't want to switch. Do you recommend being able to look at different types of systems, or maybe it's just better to stay with one way to study?
So my biggest recommendation is find what study and structure and techniques work for you, and do not add more things to it. Based on the fact that in chemistry class, when we started mixing too many things together, what happens?
Sure. Yeah, it's not good.
Boom!
Yeah.
We blow the whole spot up, and it's like, whoa! Well, I tried this technique, but it's like, were you wrestling with this other technique or this other technique? And did the things that you brought in with you actually make you feel more confident, or did it raise your anxiety when you were going through it?
Probably created more anxiety because you have more things that you have to cover, because you have so many, different avenues and different things that you're trying to do. And that's what we talk about in athletics, to try to keep it a little bit simple, and focus on the things that you don't really want to make it too complicated for yourself.
Bingo. And the same thing can be stated here. So that's where I'm a huge proponent. If my style and my techniques don't work for you, find somebody that can help you, or the things that do work for you, because my goal is to help as many people pass the exam and to create as many social workers in this field as we can. So if I'm not the right person for you, find the right fit for you and stick with it, but do not dabble a little here, little there, because when your back's against the wall in the real exam, you're not going to sure what technique to go with. And then you're going to be throwing your hands up like, well, I have no freaking clue, when you need to be throwing your hands up, ready to fight and ready to get to where you need to go.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. So I'm going to take all your material and just try to study it, because I can't take it for the next I can't take it till November now, because they won't allow me to do it. I think it's every 3 months. But I do think that, forget about therapy and the exams. I think you're doing really great work. And, if I know you always say to people, I guess, send an email if they have a question. If you need any assistance, and because I don't know anything about your field really of promoting what you're doing. I mean, I do have some connections in my work. I'll send you my email. You ever need any assistance, that, because I think it's great that, we have people. And I think that's what's really important, being able to have impact, right? Because we all help people. We all do what we can. But I think, the impact that you have is just on a greater amount of people. So I think that that's useful in our work, to be able to use our skills and impact the most people possible. I try to do that in just different ways as well, but I think you do it really, really well. So again, you know, I'm going to send you my email, and if you ever need any assistance with anything, whatever I could possibly do, I don't know what that would be, I definitely would assist you if that's what you're comfortable with as well.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and likewise, man. If you need anything, just let me know, and let's keep getting better and building together. You know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. Hi, my test is on Monday. This is my third time taking the exam. The last time was a year ago, and I failed by 10 points. I realized that both times my biggest issue is my anxiety over time and not finishing. Do you have any tips about stressing over time?
Hi, Phil.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
So like I said, I've taken the exam twice. I want to say each time was a year apart. I'm done with all my hours. I'm done with everything and just waiting for the exam. And so, as I mentioned, even with the practice test, I get so focused, and I know on the exam we have the ability to kind of hide the timer or kind of make it disappear or whatever. But even with that, that gives me even more anxiety, just not being able to see the time. And so I get so caught up in that. And both times I finished, as the one lady spoke earlier, I finished in like 2.5 hours, or even maybe even under that. And it was all just because I had this great fear of not having enough time. So I've been, slowing down with the practice exams that I've been taking. And I find it that it takes me literally, I finish with 15 minutes to spare or 30 minutes to spare with the practice exams. But I'm just scared that on Monday, I'll get, anxious all over again about time and rush through it.
Okay. So I guess you have to have a realistic conversation with yourself of, am I going to throttle down and go 100 miles an hour? Or am I okay with going 50 miles an hour based on the fact that I have evidence that I have not been able to run out of time at any capacity? Like, I think you have to make a reasonable decision and say, well, whenever I feel angst, I can finish this bad boy in 2.5 hours. But on the other end, when I take my time, I still have extra time. What evidence do I have that I'm going to run out of time?
But I think what I'm afraid of is, yes, I understand having that conversation with myself and kind of just talking myself down. But, being in the comfortability of your own home is different than when you're, because the practice test, I'm at home, my kids are away and it's just me. But then, going into the exam, you have the employees, you have various other people taking tests, going in and out. And I think that does not help my anxiety.
What are you most afraid of having people around?
Well, the fact that and I know it has nothing to do with anything, but I know I've caught myself thinking, oh, we came in together, even though they're taking different tests because we don't know who's taking what. So I can go in and there's people taking all different types of tests when we go into our testing centers here. And so just knowing that we came in together and now I see them leaving and I'm still here, that makes my anxiety like, what am I doing wrong? Oh my God, I have to, hurry up type thing.
Do you walk up to them and say, hey, my name is Abby. I'm taking the social work exam. Are you taking the social work exam? All right, bet. Or do you just sit there in the waiting room and assume that they're taking the same exam?
Well, no, I don't talk to them. I don't know what exam they're taking. I know it's different because they separate it. Sometimes they'll say, okay, everyone, if it's 3 people checking you in, they'll say, social worker exams here and then EMT or whatever over here. And we check in differently. And so I think that's what it is. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, then how can you compare a fish to a human and then hope that the human is able to swim better than the fish is, and then hope that the fish is able to walk better than the human is?
I don't know. I know it's like a flawed way of thinking, but it's just when I'm there, it just, yeah.
Well, I
don't
think
know.
that's where you almost have to remind yourself, like, I may think that people are looking at me or judging me, but they don't really give a rip about me because they're just worried about their exam and what they need to be doing outside of their exam.
Okay.
Let me provide an example. It's not related to the exam, but it's very, very similar to what you're describing. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I used to lift weights quite a bit. So I was a freshman in college. I'd never been to the weight room there. And my biggest thing was like, yo, there's probably some like titans in there, like these just monsters people. And I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb. They're going to want to kill me. They're going to want to beat me up. They're going to say, get the heck out of here. And I thought I was going to be judged 100% of the time, which when most people walk into the gyms, when they don't have the experience or they don't think they look a similar way, they feel like people are looking at them and judging them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was lifting weights and I wanted to feel like I fit in with everybody. So I went heavier than I wanted to. So I was doing a bench press. So on a bench press, you're laying down, you have the weight over top of you, and you're putting it on your chest and lifting it up. That's what it's supposed to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say at this particular day, I'm feeling myself. I want to fit in. I want people to notice me. I want people to like me. I'm like, everybody is going to think I'm cool and I fit in. I put too much weight on. It wails down on my chest. And I'm like, I'm going to die tonight. I am literally going to die today. And I'm like, oh, someone's going to run over and help me. They are obviously watching me while I'm there the whole time. Do you know how long it took for someone to come over there?
Oh no.
Forever. No one came over there. I literally had to roll the weight down my body, which kind of like scraped and like ripped skin to lift it up off myself and then turn around and put it on the rack. How realistic were my thoughts?
Well, I mean, now hindsight, it wasn't, but at that moment.
But you have the experience of them not walking up to you and be like, man, how'd your exam go?
That is true.
Or them not walking up and knocking on the window being like, see you later, homie. I'm glad that we had a conversation that we didn't have, and this was the result of my exam, but I know that you're going to fail. No exchange was had.
That is true.
So that's where you have to remind yourself of the evidence, utilizing like cognitive behavioral techniques of like, yo, if I have no evidence for this, there's a likelihood of this not occurring. Like if I have a friend that's like, yo, I'm going to come over for dinner and they don't show up 7 days in a row, do you think I'm still preparing them a place at the table?
Nope.
I'm like, bro, you ain't coming. So when you walk into the exam on Monday to say, these people aren't thinking about me. I'm only telling myself these people are thinking about me and judging me because I don't think that I can actually pass, and it's easier for me to project onto other people. Shout out to Freud and the defense mechanisms. I'm projecting onto them to judge me and tell me that I'm less than because I don't actually feel like I can walk in there and pass. So I'm trying to finish the exam as fast as I can to show that I'm quote unquote more intelligent than that person when they're not even taking the same exam.
That is true.
So that is where you have to be honest with yourself and say, it's okay not to feel okay, but this person doesn't know me. I don't know them. There could be a different time limit on their exam. They could only be taking 50 questions for all I know. Heck, they could be taking the MCAT exam, which is like 6.5 hours right now. And if I'm gauging myself to that person, I'm like, sucker. Or I think that they're leaving and they're just going on a break. So if I'm focused on more about the people around me and what they're doing, why aren't they taking my exam for me then?
That is true.
That is where you have to almost put yourself on punishment and say the things that I'm telling myself haven't transpired. So when am I going to sit myself down and say, you can do this? You don't have to compare yourself to anybody to feel worthy because you're uniquely talented, gifted, and we're put on this planet to be able to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to stop running other people's races, start running my own, and I'll actually get further than if I'm running someone else's race, because they may have different goals than I have. But if I'm trying to keep up with the quote unquote Joneses and I'm doing what they're supposed to do because I want to be accepted by them, I need to sit myself down and say, they don't even care about me. They don't care about me as much as I care about them caring about me, and wishing that they did care about my situation as much as I don't care about my own.
I agree.
Okay. Well, it's okay not to feel okay. And that's where I can't say it enough. It is okay not to feel okay. Like, this exam is something that is a life-changing thing for a lot of people, and there's a lot on the line, but it's not something that you haven't been given the things needed to walk in and feel okay. Like, you have been studying for so long, and you have the experience from your previous attempts that you can bring in with you. So you actually have a gift and privilege that other people do not have. Because if I told somebody right now that I could give them 340 actual ASWB questions, how much money do you think they'd pay me?
They would pay a lot.
They'd cash me out. They'd be like, all right, tell me the number. I'll take a line of credit out. Hell, you want my car? I didn't need my car anyway. But you've actually seen 340 actual test questions. And even though you may not directly remember them, muscle memory is a thing. So you have the experience of breaking down 340 actual exam questions and getting the majority of them correct. And you are in a better position than somebody that is not taking the exam at all.
That's a good way to think of it.
And that's where you have to stop stigmatizing yourself into like bringing yourself down and start building yourself up. Because the more you build yourself up, when someone tries to tear you down, you simply say, that's your perspective, not mine. I know where I'm supposed to go, so I'm not going to entertain that. You can do this. You may not feel it right now that you can do this, but part of you thinks that you can do this because you would not walk into something that there was a 0% chance of you being able to do the opportunity.
I agree.
Because if I told you there's a 0% chance that you're going to get this job, are you going to walk into the job interview?
No.
Then why are you walking into the exam still if you don't think that you can pass, or if you're trying to compare yourself to someone else that's not even taking your exam?
That's true.
These are just some things that you need to think about prior to Monday, and forgiving yourself for the 2 previous attempts that you had is going to be super duper important.
Okay.
Because if you do not forgive yourself for those 2 attempts, you are then going to reenact those attempts to try and rectify things that you can't even rectify, or change answers to questions that you aren't even seeing on the page, based on the fact that you're like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, can't get fooled again. And you are then going to try and fool the exam into something that isn't even there.
Some new perspective for me, so thank you.
It is my pleasure, and if you need anything before Monday, just let me know.
I will. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. What's up, Sandy? What's up?
Oh, no, thank you. No, it was good. Got me teary-eyed. Got me pumped up. I got to try. I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to do it. I failed back in December, 11 points, and I missed it by 5 in June. I got to do it again. So I'm not going to give up.
Exactly. There's no reason to give up. There's no reason to give up, because when you start giving up on one thing, you are then going to start giving up on other things in your life when they become difficult, and they may be things that you want for the rest of your life. They may be
I got to
something
self-actualize. I got to self-actualize.
You need to start building yourself up and telling yourself things that you would have told someone else if they came to you with a goal.
Yeah.
Like, you'd almost do a whole integrated biopsychosocial assessment and treatment plan for a friend of yours, and they're not even going to carry out the plan because they just needed to talk to you and process about something.
I'm getting.
You're getting there. You're
Yeah.
getting there. You're doing the right things.
Oh, yeah.
And the 1-day course, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was not
Phil,
functioning. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is for the LMSW and the LCSW, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All walks of life. But yeah, if you think like that is probably the most motivated and pumped up that I can be,
Yeah.
because it's the most that I can give. 8 hours of you being stuck with me, it's kind of a life sentence, if you will, but it's the most comprehensive that I can give. That goes over the acronym, goes through 25 practice questions, and it's a question and answer segment afterwards. You can do this.
I'm gonna, yeah.
You can do this.
It's getting close. It's getting close.
And like I said,
It's
I can't
nervous,
say
you know.
I don't know how many
I don't
times
want to fail, you know.
Well, let me
I
ask
want
you
to
this.
fail. Uh-oh, here it comes.
What are the possibilities when you walk into the exam?
I know you're gonna say pass or fail.
Well, there's 3.
Yeah.
You pass, you fail, or you die.
Oh, come on.
It's true. You could die in the exam. So do you think this exam is going to kill you?
I'm gonna kill the exam. I'm gonna kill.
But that's the thing is, when you start putting your energy into one of those categories, you then start making it real. So if I tell myself, you're going to fail and you're not going to be able to manage all of these things, you're going to start putting forth energy and effort to make the likelihood of you failing more likely. What do I mean by that? Because if you start telling yourself, I'm going to fail, when people bring up concepts and things that you feel uncomfortable with, you're going to cling on to them because it reinforces the fact that you feel like you are going to fail. Or you start surrounding yourself around people that are going to tell you things that you're not doing because it's comfortable for you to hear from other people that you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And that way you start playing them out as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
But
if
it's
you
so
truly
easy. I know it's easy to like go, you know, into the negative self-talk. Cause I've been burned before. So I'm like, I'm going to pass this time. It's like easy. And I just got to keep saying to myself, you know, yeah, you got this.
you got this.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have this, it's not your last opportunity.